Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for the very first episode of 2025. We all made it through another one, and 2025 looks to be a really, really crazy year, but I am very, very excited for it. And on this episode, we're going to get into this whole drone thing because I've received all of your messages about it, and I have been really digging into this over the last probably 2 to 3 weeks of really looking into it. And I think there's some really important things about it that are not being shared enough by our press, in some cases not at all. And I don't think at all that this story is even close from being over. And I'll explain why here in a few minutes. But first, I really wanted to take the time to thank all of you guys. Everybody has, flooded my email inbox and comments and all that stuff with really positive messages about the new year and last year and just checking in on me. And I really appreciate that. The last 2 years have been obviously a rebuilding time for me with the injury and the hospitalization and all that. But I am really happy to say that I feel really good right now. And it's been a long road back. And 2025 is definitely a year about getting back to life as I know it, life as I love it. And the things that, I need to be happy. And part of that equation is just sharing my art and my life with you. And it felt amazing to finally release the 19.5-minute sneak peek to A House in the Harbinger Kingdom. I have never received a response that positive about any sneak peek that I've ever released. So that really, really inspired me. It's an incredible project, like I said, and we've really raised the bar on post and the storytelling technique. And to see your guys' responses, like I said, it just meant a lot. It just means a lot in general that you guys have stuck by me over the last year. I was getting emotional about it because, I was just talking to Laura a couple days ago about at this time a year ago. Literally just a year ago, last, New Year's, I had just taken, my first steps away from a walker, having to, relearn how to walk and go through all that. So to be back in a position where I feel healthy, where I've, put back on a lot of the weight that I lost. At one point I was like 160 pounds, which is, that's near death for me, So to feel strong, to feel healthy, to be starting the year, with this much excitement and feeling like this is going to be a major year for everything that we've been working on and trying to accomplish over the last couple of years. It's a good feeling, and it just meant the world to me that you guys have stuck by me. And it's definitely a time to, like I said, leave the past in the past and rebuild and make sure that everything that we do and put out there is the best that it can be, and to reestablish kind of what we do, because you guys let us know that our films and our music and our podcast, you let us know that they have value, and your words matter to me and your comments matter to me. So I just wanted to thank all of you. I wanted to thank Thomas, Kurt, David, my team. I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by, partners who are also my best friends and are people that inspire me on a daily basis. So it's been awesome to have their support and to see them rally behind me and really kind of, reestablish, living a life where I put my health first. And that's been a problem with me in the past, just because I'm tunnel visioned. And, for a lot of years, the goal is all that mattered. And I definitely learned the hard way that you certainly can't accomplish your goal if you don't have your health. So um, to really take the time to make sure that I am healthy is definitely the right way to go about life. So, and to have their support in that has been wonderful. Laura, I know you listen to this podcast on your way to work. It's been awesome. Over the last couple of weeks, Laura and I really took the time to actually just reconnect because Laura, unfortunately, for about, the better of 2 years, had to, play caretaker. And although you would, of course, do that for someone that you love, that's not fun, And for long periods of time, having to be concerned about someone's health and rebuilding them, it just takes their toll. And, I recognize that, babe. And it's been amazing to kind of reconnect with her and with you, Laura, because you're listening right now, I'm sure. The last couple of weeks, we really took the time before the new year started to just reconnect as partners and as friends and just as two people that, have built a life together since they were 15. So thank you, Laura. And so, yeah, just nothing but positive things to report and to look forward to. And that's good because I think we have one hell of a year coming. Also, I just want to say one more thing, too. I've got a couple New Year's resolutions. One of my resolutions is to absolutely kill it with this podcast. The world just has changed, and I can recognize the fact that in today's world, having a large and consistent fingerprint in the podcast world is a really important part of getting your product out there and getting your work out there. And that's something that I really want to focus on because, like I said, I love this podcast. And so as we continue to go into this new year, you can definitely plan on seeing more episodes per week. And a big part of that for me is not being so damn anal about editing with these podcasts. A lot of times I would go through and edit out every time I would misspeak a word or, any kind of double word, or I stutter sometimes, and I would edit all that stuff out. And I need to just leave that stuff alone and just accept that I speak well enough for all of you. and you guys would rather see more episodes than, episodes that are edited perfectly. So if I, speak a word or something like that, rest assured they're probably going to be in the episodes now, just because that's the stuff that really takes the time when, editing, and it really slows the whole process down. And I want to get more of these episodes out too. So just keep that in mind. There are more episodes coming, and I'm really stoked about that. I also want to point out I've received a lot of emails from you guys asking about what Skyfall thinks of all this. I'm way ahead of you. I messaged Skyfall a couple weeks ago, and I actually have been going back and forth with him for the last couple of days. So just rest assured that he does have a lot to say about what's been going on, and I'm just confirming what I can say that he's told me, and then I also need to decide what I want to say, because as many of you have pointed out, his predictions have been insanely accurate as things play out. Right down to even the Middle East stuff. When the Ukraine war happened, a lot of people were messaging me going, is this the war that, Skyfall was, referencing, the conflict? And when I asked him, he said no. He said, no, this is not the one. It's going to be in the Middle East. And this was long before that happened. And he said that, America will be involved, and we will step in and we will try to bring peace to it. But there's a lot more to all of his predictions that have lined up that is insanely accurate. And it's even crazier when you stop and consider how long ago he made these predictions. And they are all documented starting way back in 2017 on my Facebook page, all the way up into Two-Face the Gray and obviously Phantom Rider. He was making those predictions way back then. And it's all there for you guys to look up. A lot of you have revisited those films and you've been messaging me about it. And yeah, I agree with you. It is insane the amount of information that he came out that things have played out pretty much exactly like he said they were going to. For that reason, when all of the drone stuff started happening, I immediately thought, oh my God, the timing of all of it, with everything that's going on in the Middle East, and with Trump coming in and just the whole scenario, I was like, is this what Skyfall was referencing? And as the story got bigger and bigger and bigger, I was like a lot of you. I was absolutely baffled by what I was seeing. Because this is one of the rare times where a conspiracy theory plays out because it is a conspiracy. And it's one of the rare times that the people that are stating that it's a conspiracy are senators and mayors and police chiefs and members of Congress. And that was playing out right in front of us. And I don't think in my lifetime I could ever remember a time where, the entire branch or whole branches of government, whether it be local, or Congress, are speaking up and saying, this is BS. The government's lying to you. And clearly they were. The explanations that were given were crazy. When they first started coming out, there was a congressman that said, I have the inside scoop, and it's Iran. Iran has, which I knew this was bullshit. He was saying Iran has a ship off the East Coast that's launching all these drones. And I'm thinking, Iran? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, Iran could barely keep their lights on. And if Iran had some submarine that was launching, thousands of drones off the East Coast, I mean, that's, an act of war. And Iran certainly can't afford to be, trying to start a war on our coast, So it was just really bizarre to hear that. And then turn around and you would hear, the government saying, we don't know whose they are. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know where they're going. But they're not a threat. Which, it's like, there's a few things in life that always freak me out. When someone says nothing to see here, like, there's something to see there, right? When someone says, oh, this is guaranteed. And when someone says a result is guaranteed, what is that means it's not guaranteed, right? So that was the same type of thing. It was like, nothing to see here, people. Everything's fine. Everything's good. So when it started happening, I started freaking out because I started, reading local news stories. And I quickly started realizing that the media was focusing on New Jersey. But this was happening everywhere across the country, including here, which exactly what you saw in New Jersey is what I have been talking about for what now, guys? 6 months? I've been talking about all the weird shit that's going on over the ocean. And I do have footage of that. And on the next episode, when I give you guys the Skyfall info from my talks with him, I'll share that footage as well. But that's exactly what's been going on. Military helicopters and military planes, and it's all been, chasing these drones, I guess, or monitoring these drones. And there's been tons of drones just flying around that don't make any sense. So when I first saw it, I was like, yes, that is exactly what's been going on here. And that's the first thing that I noticed that the press and the media was not initially covering. They started to a little bit, but understand something. This is not a New Jersey thing, because there's 26 different states in the United States that are experiencing this. And I mean like heavy drone activity over, everything from military bases to nuclear, plants, power plants. This is going on. This is going on in Minnesota. This is going on in Indiana. This is going on in Illinois. It's going on in Texas. It's going on in California, Oregon. It's going on everywhere. There are drones across the United States that are doing this, and it's still happening today. But to take it one step further, it's not just the United States. It's around the world. These same types of reports are going on in India. They're going on in Brazil. They're going on in Indonesia. They're going on in Japan, in Poland. There are so many reports of this happening right now around the world, but the American media, it just focuses on America's issues primarily. But if you get outside of the American media and you look in the media around the world, this is happening everywhere. The world is talking about this right now, and everybody's reporting the same thing. They don't know where it's coming from. They don't know where it's coming from. Now, when the government comes out and says we don't know where these drones are coming from, like many of you, what makes the most sense to me initially was, oh, well, they're ours. If they were anybody else's, wouldn't we just shoot them down? If they were an adversaries, for example, if they were Russian drones, if they were Chinese drones, if they were Iranian drones, which I'm sure they're not Iranian drones, but if they were, our military would blow them out of the sky. And do not kid yourself when they say, well, we don't have, the ability to, track these things or see what they are or anything like that. The only way that would be possible is if it was alien technology, which we'll get to that possibility later. But anything on planet, look, I can give you, we spend $840 billion a year on defense. Now, just to put that into perspective, and this is a fact, our defense budget is more than the next 10 countries' defense budgets combined. Okay? If there was thousands and thousands of drones flying around that we could not monitor or keep up with, which we'll talk about some of these claims because it's pretty crazy, then that's a serious, serious, serious issue. Because there should be no other country. I don't believe for a second that there's another country, an adversary, that has drones with the ability, to basically do what they're saying they're doing. And we'll get to what they're saying they're doing. So I initially just thought, well, these have got to be our drones, and they're looking for something. That was my initial thought. They're looking for something. And I did not think about the nuclear warhead stuff until that became a thing. And we'll talk a little about that too. But my initial thought was, okay, my thought was, it must be some new defense system or something that they're, monitoring or tracking, or they're basically getting readings, some kind of sensory readings, or something that was defense-based. Which it freaked me out even more when suddenly they weren't saying that. They were just saying, they were giving us absolute nonsense that didn't make any sense. Like, they're not stupid. They know that if they tell us we don't know what it is, we don't know who owns it, we don't know where it's from, and we don't know where it's landing, but you're safe. They clearly know that we're going to go, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense, and I'm not safe, and I don't feel safe. So why are they saying that? Why are they saying we have no idea what they're doing, where they're from, where they're going? If they were ours, all they have to do is come out and say, hey, this is a new measure of our defense, and they're doing something that they have to do for the Defense Department. In which that case, everyone would go, okay, well, do your thing. If it keeps us more safe, okay. But they're not saying that. They're not saying that. So why? Why would they be saying that? Why would they be saying you're totally safe, there's no threat? Look, on a basic level, if these things fall out of the sky and hit somebody, they can kill somebody. If they're flying over bases and doing all this stuff and they have no control of it, look, they could be carrying a payload. Of course we're in danger. So the only reason that I could think of that they would say you're not in danger is if they know that telling the truth would just cause absolute panic. Because at that point, you don't have any choice, right? Like, if we're in imminent danger from these things, and they came on in a press conference and said, we don't know who they belong to, where they're from or where they're going, and we know that we are all in extreme danger right now. Like, if they said that, people would go nuts. People would freak out if they said that. If they said these drones can do whatever the fuck they want to do to us right now, we don't know anything. We are in a real bad situation right now. Well, they can't say that. So my initial thought was they just can't say what's going on. They just can't tell us the truth. So they're telling us the best option. And then I heard the thing about the nuclear material that these are looking, these drones are, looking for, basically a nuclear warhead. Well, if you dig into drones, that is a big part of what they do, is reconnaissance and recovery. And they are absolutely constructed to do things like that, to seek out and find, radioactive material, just different weaponry in general. They're constructed to do. And that would make sense. The only person that I've seen that said, oh no, that's not what they're doing, was like Ryan Graves. And his reason as to why wasn't very convincing. He was on Joe Rogan. He said, yeah, I don't think that's what's going on, because I know some people that work on that type of stuff and they're not working on it. Well, I mean, that doesn't mean, look, there's 3,000 drones that are flying around. They could be working on it, I mean, who knows, So do I think that's a real possibility? I do think it's a possibility that something was lost. The only thing that made me stop and go, no, that's not a possibility, is, again, this is going on worldwide. This is going on worldwide. And that's what our media just is not reporting. They're basically still, every now and then, they will mention that it's happening in different states. But they're still primarily making it sound like it's a New Jersey thing. Right down to the point where they call it the New Jersey drones. This is going on worldwide. So once I really considered that, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not a nuclear thing then, because these nukes would, these drones have to be looking for nuclear warheads all over the world. That doesn't make any sense. But still, what has never made sense is, why is the government saying that we're safe, but admitting that they have no control over what's going on? That doesn't make any sense, So then my question was, the second thing that I, thought about, is it our adversaries? Is it our adversaries? And the primary potentials for this, of course, would be Russia or China. Well, kind of the same thing. If it was Russian or Chinese, obviously we would shoot them down, unless there was some hazard or reason that we couldn't. That would put us in further grave danger. But if it was Russia or China, there's a massive difference between a high altitude surveillance balloon that they found, a year ago and shot out of the sky, versus thousands of drones that are, basically invading the United States. That would be a brazen act of war. At times where nuclear tensions are high as fuck. That would be really, really dangerous for China and Russia or Iran or any adversarial country to just launch some new technology and just go invade America. Dare I say, with Trump coming into office, might not be the wisest thing. Love him or hate him, I can't imagine that Trump would respond, peacefully to America being invaded by known adversarial drones. So the idea that it is our adversaries, that doesn't seem to satisfy Occam's razor, right? It doesn't. The Occam's razor says it's ours. If it's theirs, again, you would think they would be shooting them out of the sky. And why? What would they be doing? I mean, I know who knows, because you'd have to know the tech to know. But like, ultimately, what would they be searching for or looking for? If it's not a nuke, what? Like, is it schematic? Something? Who knows, right? But it would be just so brazen that you would be inviting, the potential of a nuclear war. And we're on the cusp of that anyways. I mean, it's definitely minutes to midnight. I mean, definitely. Right now, the world is closer to a nuclear war than it has been right now. I mean, it is by far, we are a breath away. And when you really start digging into what's going on around the world, that becomes more and more obvious. And it's really, really uncomfortable. So if you look at the first two options, it's like, okay, it doesn't make sense. It would make sense that they're ours, except for the way we're treating it. It doesn't make sense that it would be our adversarials. So what would a third option be? They're alien drones, right? They're alien drones. Well, there's a lot of reasons that doesn't make sense until you start plugging in the reports. Keep in mind that there are a lot of people that are misidentifying regular drones, hobbyist drones, airplanes, like all of those things. There's a lot of misidentifications. But there's a lot that aren't. Like, people aren't misidentifying a drone the size of an SUV that's hovering 20 feet above their house, right? But the reports that put the alien thing, or the alien potential, as a plausible, it's that perhaps we aren't actually seeing the, quote, alien drones, right? Because there are a lot of people, like Dr. Greer, who say what we're seeing are American drones, or drones that are made by our military that are tracking something else. And there are many people out there, and guys, you got to really, really get out there and read the local stories across the country. There's a lot of people that are saying, look, the drones that we're seeing are tracking other drones. There is a news story in which a sheriff, comes out and says, listen, these drones, whatever they are, we can see them in infrared for a time period, and they're not releasing any heat. There's no heat signature.
Hours earlier, I was invited to join the Ocean County Sheriff Department. They launched their own drones to see if they could intercept the mysterious aircraft New Jersey residents have been reporting in recent weeks. The department says these mystery drones evade detection because they don't give off heat like regular drones.
Why do you think that is? We don't know. It's just something that we haven't, it's not something that we've had our hands on. It's not something that we've experienced.
Something they hadn't experienced until now.
And not only a sheriff, but there have been many helicopter pilots that have seen these things and are saying that there are drones, what they're calling drones, which are actually UAPs, that are flying around everywhere. And then there's military drones that are trying to follow them. And there's people actually in planes and helicopters that are from the military that are trying to also get eyes on these drones. In fact, this one sheriff talks about how they had their drone up, and they were out in New Jersey, and 50 drones came from the ocean. The Coast Guard, there's two reports of one Coast Guard that said 13 drones came out of the water and tracked their boat. And there's another Coast Guard report of 60 doing the same thing.
One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean.
50?
50. That was my reaction also. There were 50 that were coming off the ocean.
And this is a sworn officer.
A sworn officer, yes. We contacted state police, we contacted the FBI, we contacted the Coast Guard, at which point the Coast Guard went out with their boat and they reported seeing 13 following their boat. And then the Coast Guard also advised that they went over them about 300 feet and had a wingspan of about 8 feet.
These things are coming out of the water. They are coming out of the water. That doesn't mean they're not being launched from something underwater. But what doesn't make any sense is that most of these drones, first of all, hobbyist drones, for people that are saying, oh, they're just hobbyists and stuff. They're not hobbyists. Hobbyist drones can maybe fly around 26 to 30 minutes maximum fully charged before they lose battery. These drones that people are seeing, which I think are probably our military drones, if they're tracking these other drones, are saying that they're up in the air. These unknown drones are up in the air for 10, 12 hours at a time. The police that are also trying to use their drones to track them also claim that the potential, quote, alien drones, if that's what we're going to call them, that they're trying to track, that they disappear, that they will be looking at them through the FLIR or through their drone cameras, and the UAP / alien drone, if that's what we want to call it, simply disappears.
The Ocean County Sheriff, that drone unit, they have an industrial grade drone. They put it up. They were tracking one of these drones, Elizabeth, and they said this thing easily evaded them, disappeared out of thin air. So to me, if this is not our military, then it's even more scary, and we need answers, frankly.
Now, there are tons of reports of this from police officers. Also from people. There's a sheriff who was in a helicopter that was following a drone, that was following one, and they were able to see it. And they said all of a sudden the drone just vanished. And he got so freaked out, they just, got out of there and literally left the area where it was at. So there are reports that there's drones that we're not seeing, okay, that people are not seeing from the ground, but they're up there. And that there are tons of drones that are being sent out to try to track them. And that is what the public is seeing. All right. Now, this actually makes the most sense to me. Now, I don't know if that means these are alien. I don't know what alien even means anymore. I've always said if there's potential for, quote, alien visitors, it makes far more sense to me that they would either be dimensional or they'd be coming from the water than it would that they would come from space. Regardless, to entertain that possibility, of course, you have to use your imagination a little bit and start thinking sci-fi. But the problem with all this is it all seems crazy until you start plugging in the actual accounts. When there's sheriffs, when there's thousands and thousands of local people, when there's helicopter pilots, and they're saying things like they came from the water, when the Coast Guard's saying, 13 of them, 60 of them, 50 of them came from the water, when they're saying they don't give off a heat signature. Listen, whether something's electric or whether it's, fuel, the bottom line is if something's hanging out in the air and flying around for hours and hours on end, it should definitely be giving off a heat signature. If it's not, that's some tech that we don't know about. To my knowledge, we don't currently have any kind of tech that can just vanish, right? So when they say, when a sheriff says I was looking at a drone that we had on IR, on a FLIR that we're looking directly at, and we approach it and it vanishes, I don't think teleportation is something we've conquered yet. Or maybe it is and we don't know about it. But with all of the reports that are out there, and my God, have I looked into this. I have read so much about this. I have spent so much time in local town newspapers and watching local news stories and doing it all over the world. I think what has been happening is that there's something flying around that our military is tracking through our own drones. And I think that is what people are seeing. And if not, then yeah, there's some serious either way, there's explaining to do, I guess. But that would also make sense why our government would give the response they've given. Because they could come out and say, we don't know who it belongs to, which they wouldn't. We don't know if it's alien, right? If it's actually a drone that can disappear, that gives no heat signature, that has UAP characteristics. And they would say, we don't know where it's coming from, because underwater isn't a place other than to say from the ocean. We don't know where it's coming from. We don't know where it's going. But we don't see any, danger, imminent danger for anybody, because until these things bomb someone, make someone sick, blow something out, you know what I mean? Until they do, then, you can't really say anything but what you see. And what they've seen so far is that none of these things, to our knowledge, have begun to attack people or to blow things up or anything like that. So if we looked at it from that standpoint, if they were literally tracking these things and they didn't know where they came from, they didn't know who they belonged to, they didn't know where they were going, but yet they had no answers as far as what are they doing? Because they've been saying that too. Our government's saying we don't know what they're doing. Now keep in mind, this is going on around the world. This is not an American thing, and I want to stress that so much. This is not a New Jersey thing. This is a global thing that's happening right now. There's a lot more to think about too. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now that I think in time are going to play into this. I don't know this for a fact at all. I just, allow my mind to wander a bit. But there's been just some incredible advances made with SI. The Willow chip, with Google reportedly accesses other dimensions. Tech is going to a place really fast that is really scary. We're going to do another episode coming up on AI. Some new stuff that I've learned as well as I've been researching that. And AI is really scary. It really is. If you look at the instability of the world right now, the potential for nuclear war, the technological advancements that we're making, the fact that all of this UAP stuff is going on, that, sightings are at an all-time high that's astronomical. And I realize that a big part of that is it's a media story right now, right? UAPs are a media story. So, of course, it's a big deal. So more people are looking up, more people are filming. But more people are also, filming things that they're seeing. I mean, there's an ungodly amount of fake shit out there right now. But there's a lot of real stuff too. And there's something going on. And right now, there's something very weird going on with the weather too, with the fog. We're going to get into that in an episode coming up too, because that's happening out here on the West Coast right now as well. But this story is not over. This drone thing is not over. I mean, it's still happening. Nothing has I saw News Nation put out one story saying that they thought reports in New Jersey were de-escalating, and then there's Hannibal TV and a couple other locals that I watch out there that have podcasts that are from there, and they're going, no, nothing has calmed down. The only difference is people know that when they call in, they're going to hear the same story. We don't know where they're from. We don't know where they're going. We don't know how to, ground them, stop them. We don't know shit. They disappear when we approach them. They're not giving off heat signatures. They come from the water. But hey, you're safe. And everyone in New Jersey has been told this. I mean, it should, mean something or demonstrate something that 150 mayors in New Jersey got together to demand answers, because they're just like, hey, this is happening, man. In Texas right now, there is wild shit going on in Texas right now with UAPs and with drones, quote, drones, which seems to be the new word for UAP. In California, they're freaking it is happening everywhere. In Minnesota, it's happening everywhere. In Iowa, everywhere. So this stuff is going on, and yeah, it's freaky. Especially when you talk about all this drone stuff going on in Minnesota. I mean, that's in the upper middle of the country. I mean, if these things were coming from the ocean, that's a long flight. Then again, Minnesota is the land of the lakes, so maybe that's the reason why. But there's something going on. There's something. It doesn't benefit our country to look ignorant. Like, it doesn't benefit the military. It's not like other countries aren't looking at us going, yeah, we don't know where these things came from and we can't do shit about them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that looks terrible. So the last thing our country would want to say is that. But to some degree, I think our government is telling us what they can, because I think if they told us the truth, I think people would freak out. I mean, just imagine that. If Trump or Biden were to be walked out and said, we're tracking them, we have all the military stuff in the world, we can tell you where they're at when we see them, but they disappear and we don't know where they're coming from, we don't know where they're going, and you can't do shit to bring them down. Yeah, we're in danger, everybody. We're in real fucking danger. Like, if our president said something like that, people would lose their shit. They would lose their mind. And I think that is the last thing that our military and our government wants. So I think they're telling us what they can, which is they're putting a shiny spin on a really scary situation. And I don't think this is over by a long shot. I think we all need to be prepared, because I'm going to say it. I hope I am wrong. I'm waiting to get the next round of answers back from Skyfall 2, just to get his thoughts on some things I had, because I had a couple other possible thoughts that, again, I hope are wrong. But I hope I'm wrong, but I have a real serious feeling that something real big is coming soon. And this is all either an intentional setup or it is the calm before the storm. But this is going on around the world. This is not a Jersey thing. Keep that in mind. That's a real important thing. It's going on around the world. Wow. That's how you start out 2025, I guess. I would love to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is just people that are just misidentifying things, that are just always flying around? Or do you think there's more to this story? Do you think there is a potential that our government and other governments around the world are trying to track things that aren't ours that are flying around? Or do you think it's just a new defense program and that's all people are seeing is their own drones? What do you guys think? I would love to know your guys' thoughts about this in detail, considering all this. And also, stay tuned. I'm going to have a big kind of update with thoughts from Skyfall as soon as I know what he's okay with me sharing, and as soon as I can decide what I'm okay sharing, because I do not want to crawl back into this rabbit hole too deep. The UAP world is an active minefield right now, and yeah, it's live. It's definitely live. So let me know what you guys think. Here's to 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. Much love. Let's make this the best year of our life. All the best.